Hi everyone, it's Barbara Hayward here, and thank you for joining me today. I'm the host of the podcast Stories from the Soul, and also I have a YouTube channel. I will mention that, and it's the Old Girls Spiritual Stuff over on YouTube, of course. Today I'm going to start telling you about a series of experiences that happened to me, and it's still happening to me. So I just want to start at the beginning. And when I came to and I'm going to read it out of my book, Letters from Grandma. When I first came to New Zealand, I had never been here before. I was maybe 38, coming up to 38, just after my birthday. And we lived at a place called Palmerston North, which is where Dennis, my partner at the time, he was raised in Palmerston North, so we went there to begin our journey. And I had a teacher for several years in Melbourne before this. So I was quite into a lot of what was happening spiritually. And there's two parts to my work spiritually. There is my private journey, my personal journey, and there's my public journey. And today I'll be talking about my part of my actual personal journey. And these are situations or experiences that I've had that I don't normally actually talk about. And in my book, in the chapter that I put these stories in, I call it For My Eyes Only. And there's no morals to them, there's no teachings or learnings. These are experiences that my people in spirit have given to me and the environment that has given to me as well. So with Mount Taranaki, or Egmont as it was called at the time, I had no idea the significance that it was going to have in my life and how it was going to unfold. And it's been about 35 years now that I've been here, just over 35 years. Yep, just over 35 years. And it's still having an influence on me, not like it did, but certainly it's around me and it surrounds me. So with that introduction, thank you for allowing me to give you a bit of the background story. We had, I had at this stage been part of the church, these spiritualist church system, and I was becoming known as a medium clairvoyant, which I was. And in New Zealand, you then get invited to other churches to be the guest speaker or the guest medium of of the night. Now, there was a lot of people in Palmerston North area that had connections to the Taranaki area, or New Plymouth specifically. And New Plymouth is like the major city in the province of Taranaki. And this story is the first time that I was invited up there to speak at their church, the journey up there and what took part. So with that, I will read out of my book and I'll just add bits at the end. This very first experience came from Mount Taranaki speaking to me about its anger and disappointment at events that were occurring. This was around the time that Mount Egmont had name change to Mount Taranaki. Lots of diverse energy was happening around the area just on that subject alone. So the Taranaki area is quite a predominant Māori area, and not as much as some, but a lot more than others. And the legends and the myths around Taranaki and in New Plymouth and surrounding areas is very strong and very powerful. They've got very powerful iwis, which is tribes, and very, very solid communities of Māori people. It was in the 1990s, and we were still living in Palmerston North. I had been invited to be the guest speaker at the Spiritualist Centre in New Plymouth on a Sunday night. Den and I decided to leave reasonably early Sunday morning, and I decided. Have lunch on the way, enjoy the scenery, do the service, and stay the night, and then come back the next day. He'd got hit the Monday off from work. We left as planned, had lunch at Wanganui, drove through Hara, and we were approaching a township called Inglewood. It's only a little township. All of a sudden, I started to feel violently ill. It had It didn't feel like an upset stomach from something I had eaten earlier. My head began to pound and I felt very nauseous. I asked him to keep us safe, but please could he get me out of that town quickly? I knew something was very wrong and I didn't know how to deal with it. So leaving quickly sounds reasonable to me. The further out of town we went, the better I began to feel. After the service at the Spiritualist Centre that night, I asked this gentleman if he knew of anything that had happened over the last couple of days in a place called Inglewood. He looked at me strangely and asked why was I asking. I explained that afternoon's event around in and through Inglewood and that I had an intense feeling the mountain was very unhappy. By this time, several people had come over to where we were talking, and the gentleman began his story. He explained that the mountain was a male energy mountain and that he looked over the communities and he was there to give the energies that were needed when needed. I said I wasn't surprised that it was a male mountain. I had felt that very, very strong masculine energy. He went on to say that he would explain to me the story of why the mountain was where it was another day, which is really an exciting story. And one day I'll put it in there in as part of the Maori mythology. This gentleman was Maori and he knew the myths regarding the mountain. He continued, explaining that the day before, a young Maori lad had murdered his girlfriend and their young baby. The mountain was very angry at the violence that was happening in the Maori communities and needed it all to stop. The negative energies were destroying the hearts of the Maori people, and that took a long time. Um, for that full amount of energy to really come through. I was very interested to continue this conversation, but the evening was drawing to a close. The gentleman promised that when we met again, and we would, he would love to tell me more about the Maori culture and their beliefs. The next morning, after breakfast, Den and I said our goodbyes to our host and began our journey home. As we were heading out of New Plymouth and onto the open road, I went into contemplation. Now, contemplation for me is something you may call meditation. It's slightly different, but it's along the same lines. Getting my energetic vibrations in tune for the nature around me, ready for my conversation with Mount Taranaki. As we approached Inglewood, we were able to park in a rest area where we had a beautiful full view of the mountain. And it's a very straight mountain. It's straight up and it's straight down. It's a colossal mountain. I asked the mountain to please hear me. I explained that as we had driven through the township the day before, I had been affected by its energy of anger and asked, was there anything the mountain would like to tell me, or if there was anything I could do to help it? I made it clear to the mountain that the death of the young lady and her baby had been explained to me and how sorry I had been to hear this really, really bad news. I asked if there was anything that I could do to help. I explained that I was only new to not only this area, but reasonably new to the country itself. The mountain confirmed to me how angry it was and how angry he was with the violence and hardship that the people were causing each other, and that the murder had hurt him greatly. I asked again if there was anything I could do, and he silently replied, "Not yet, but there will be a lot for you to do later." This baffled me, as I lived several hours drive away. Little did I know then that I would soon be living in New Plymouth, nor did I have any idea of the other experiences that I would be having in this region. I thanked Mount Taranaki, and I told him how sad I was that so much was happening to the people. I was to hold on to that experience. It was the beginning of an association with that mountain that goes on to this day, a place and a people that I felt very much at home with. It wasn't that much later that Den and I found ourselves living in New Plymouth. The people, and especially the Maori people, welcomed me with open arms. In the next story, I found out more about the mountain and my relationship with it. So I will leave it there. We moved up, so I think that it was maybe early in the year that I went up to New Plymouth to do the church service, and it was actually March the 10th that we drove up there um, with our furniture van. And I get led by spirit where to live, and over the decades, I've moved a lot of times. But this particular experience, that when I went up, and this part I will extend the session because this is just a little story. So I was driving the car up to New Plymouth. Dennis was driving the moving van. And we got to a place that's outside of Hara. I don't say it right. The Maori people roll their R's a lot better than I. And I was just driving. I was focused on the road. I was concentrating, and nothing much was happening around me. But what really surprised me at this spot is I looked up at the mountain, and the mountain said to me, "Welcome home." Welcome home? I mean, I've been up there a couple of times to serve the church, but welcome home? I didn't understand that. To me, that was so foreign. I'm an Australian lady who met a New Zealand man, and now we're living in New Zealand. And I'm going, "Well, what is this welcome home bit?" And so it took me a while to live in the houses that I lived, to meet the people that I did meet, and to do the work that I did to fully understand that. So in the next video that I do on For My Eyes Only, I will explain the next journey. So thank you for joining me on the first leg of my For Your Eyes Only journey of experiences. Mostly they're all around Mount Taranaki. Even though a couple of them I was hundreds of miles away, it's still that pull of the mountain that has with me. So thank you for joining me. Until next time, ka kite anō.